totally listen to this for like the next half hour. So we are live. I think I succeeded. I see a thing in the I see a thing on the screen that says live preparing, but on Facebook it looks like we're actually live and there's one person maybe watching.
Red.
What?
Mine says recording, so I think that means it's working.
Nice. Awesome. Okay. So for those of you who may be watching where it looks like there are two people, this is Erin Lind, and I'm so excited to share one of my favorite acro teachers. And the purpose of this interview is to see what Erin's journey in the handstand and acro world has been like, and some, what he wants to share with us in terms of a motivational training journey or motivating training journey. So Erin, if you want to just introduce yourself, you're welcome to.
Cool. Hi. So yeah, my name's Erin Lind. I've been doing handstands in one form or another to varying degrees of quality since I was 14. I remember trying to kick up in my parents' living room, and my mom had this étagère, which is like a fancy name for a cabinet with glass doors, with these little like porcelain figurines that she loved. She's like, "Quit doing those handstands, you're gonna knock over my porcelain." Which didn't stop me. I think maybe it somehow motivated me a little bit more. But those are my earliest memories of playing with, trying to get on my hands. For some reason, I'm not sure why, there's a very short list of things that I felt like I had to do with this body. Otherwise, being alive was somehow like being wasted somehow. And so one of those was play music. I had to play guitar. If I didn't play guitar, life wasn't complete. I had to be able to juggle 3 balls at least, a little bit for some reason. And then like handstands. Wanted to be able to hold a handstand for, at least a little while. That seemed like a really necessary thing to do. And that's more or less stayed. I've gone through phases where I've trained handstand pretty intensely. Earlier this year was like every day for at least a couple hours. In quarantine, like went really hard with it, and that tapered off, and it's kind of going in waves with the time. But it's always felt like something that I need to do. Like if I can jump on my hands and hold a handstand for at least a little bit, I feel good. If the handstand's not there, I'm like, okay, let's get to work and make sure that it's going to be there.
So, I love that. I love that. So a lot of people, when the handstand's not there, like what you said, a lot of people that I've been talking to just get like frustrated and discouraged. But I love that what you said instead was, let's get to work and make sure it's there. I love that. Just like this, like the subtle difference in like mindset and like emotional reaction to that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So one of the most powerful things that I've learned from you is feeling really connected to your why. Mm-hmm. And I wondered if you, oops, for some reason it said this live video has ended, but I'm recording this so I can just post it on the group if needed. But anyway, I was wondering if you could share a little bit of your why, and also why it's important to you to be connected to it.
It changes around quite a lot. But I think the big why for me is this body and this time, and this time on the planet, I suppose, this time in like a corporeal existence. It feels very special. It feels like a gift. Doesn't feel like a problem to be figured out or whatever. I feel like my body has certain capacities, and it's interesting. It's fun to like figure out how those things work. Sometimes I get a little bit maybe too hung up on quality, like, oh, I should be able to do this better or whatever. And like, that's something that I'm always trying to work on, like the mental aspect or the emotional aspect of training. But the big why for me, it's like, it's an amazing thing to be alive. And what are you going to do? How are you going to enrich that or cultivate that? How are you going to share that? You know, and for me, being able to do a handstand, like at a base level, just handstand, like, you know, a few seconds. And then like on a deeper level, like, okay, I'm working on these head isolation things. I'm working towards my one arm. I held a 2-second one arm on my canes. It's the first time.
Really?
Very exciting and not repeatable. So more drills. Yeah, but that's kind of my why. It's the same thing with a lot of the things that I do. You know, right now I'm also really intensely practicing music, which is, you know, something I spent about 20 years building up.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't ever feel like that's done, you know, like as long as you have a body and as long as you feel passion for something, um, being able to dive into it and have an experience and have a journey and hopefully have something to share too with other people by going through it. I think that's my why. That's what makes me feel connected.
Awesome. And I know that you oftentimes ask people what their why is at the beginning of an immersion that you teach. Um, and
There's a good reason.
What?
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. There's a really good reason for that I'll share later.
Well, I was gonna ask if you wanted to share a little bit more about that and like what what that brings to your
Yeah.
teaching.
Yeah. So I mean, anytime you get into an artistic pursuit or physical pursuit or whatever, or I mean, even just getting up in the morning sometimes, if you have this connection to why am I doing this thing, it's deeper, more exciting, more interesting, and it's more motivating for sure. And like in the beginning of events, one of the reasons that I'll ask people like, why are you here and what do you want and what do you want to get out of this, is because you work hard. You know, you get up early, you know,
Yep.
you move your body maybe before you feel like moving it. um, the handstand training is intense. A lot of the acro training that we do, it's involved in it, it's intense, and like there's definite periods of physical discomfort as you're pushing edges, which is, you know, that's how we improve. It's how we put in good information or new information into our bodies anyways. um, but there's times when it's like frustrating, you know, and if you can like celebrate the frustration times as much as you celebrate the easy, happy, fun, successful times, I think that's what's necessary to keep going. This is hard work, you know,
Yeah.
unless you're magically one of those people that is just wired for whatever you're trying to do and you can just do everything from the time you were a kid, in which you have a completely different set of issues that I'm not going to talk about.
Well, I feel like even those people probably have days where their bodies just like feel heavier or like, not as responsive to the work that you're trying to do.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and I'm curious actually to ask a little bit more about like how you deal with like the frustrations or the roadblocks that you come across, and maybe like how your why is connected to that. And this might be kind of like a vague question, but I guess what I'm trying to do is sink a little deeper into the like how to get yourself out of that, like I'm stuck and I like can't do the thing that I want to do, and like
Yeah.
getting past those roadblocks.
Yeah. That's also changed around a lot for me.
Mhm.
You know, when I was in my mid 20s and I was getting into yoga, pike press handstand was like the thing. You know, all the ashtangis could do it. It's so cool. You know, I want to press everything. And I really worked on that super hard and I got it. You know, I got to the point where I could do many, many pikes up and down. And I did it just through sheer brute force.
Yeah.
You know, like the ethos at that time, you know, I think I was 26, was just do it harder, you know,
Yeah.
do it more often, do it all day. And like my body could sustain that and it was great, you know. Um, but that didn't last for that long. You know,
Yeah.
so push harder, do more, like that works at a certain age. You know, I ran cross country when I was a kid too, and like just run harder, just go faster. Um, and I've gotten to a point now, you know, and this is a lot of years later, I'm 39 now, where I have a pretty good idea of how my body's going to respond to certain stimuli. You know, like if I do a shoulder opening drill 3 times, I know I'm going to get the line that I'm looking for when I do my tuck up to handstand. rather than like push harder, do the thing over and over and over. Like,
Right.
yes, volume is super important, but like having the right sequence of exercises and the right volume for you and the right activity to resting time too.
Mhm.
I feel like it's a formula that everybody has to figure out for themselves. And when you get it, it might stay that way for a while, and then you'll have to continue like assessing. So I
Mhm.
think the invitation that I'm giving to myself, and I guess for everybody that trains, is there's a certain sensitivity that you need to have to your body of like, okay, I'm tired, but I think I could do a couple more. I'm tired, my body's not responding, and I'm putting in bad information.
Mhm.
Rest for 90 seconds
Right.
or whatever. Like the formula, you can work with a recipe that a teacher gives you, and I think it's really, really important to have a teacher.
Mhm.
um, but you also have to like you know tweak it for yourself, and then be really honest with yourself of whether you know you're really going for it, or you're being a little bit like resting too much, being kind of lazy.
Yeah.
So everybody does end up being their own teacher,
Right.
because your body will tell you, your body will teach you if you know how to listen to it.
I love that. I had a question and it totally flew out of my mind, but
At like 4 a.m. in a cold sweat.
what?
It'll come back at like 4 a.m. in a cold sweat. Like,
Yeah, I know, like, oh, there was that question I wanted to ask you. Um, I guess, um, yeah, I'm like totally blanking on what I was going to ask you. But yeah, if you wanted to talk a little bit about the oh man, like totally had a question for you. Um, this is why
oh,
I should write things down. I'm so bad. I'm like
okay, it's okay.
totally,
I had one more thing that I wanted to say.
yeah.
Um, that also just popped back into my head. As you were asking the question, it kind of like, oh, that's one of the things I could talk about. Okay, so there's one more like kind of emotional component to training anything.
Mm,
I've been reading this wonderful book called Effortless Mastery by Kenny Werner, who's like a pianist, mostly a jazz guy. And he talks a lot about how we treat ourselves well or not so
mm, yeah.
when we're doing our thing. And he calls practicing from a sense of like, I should be better, or there's other people that are better than me that I have to catch up to, otherwise I won't be accepted or make money or have a family or survive or whatever. He calls that fear-based practice. you know?
Interesting.
And I think anybody that gets into an artistic pursuit is really susceptible to this. There's other people that, especially like with how overwhelmingly present social media is, and I think pretty much everybody I know in all of our lives now. You open the thing and you're like, oh God, like the Cirque hand balancer, like oh, I'll never be able to do that.
Yeah.
And when you get on your hands or whatever you're doing with that in mind, a lot of times you'll push yourself to the point of injury, or it's just not fun. Like, oh, I should be better. Like, I remember I was training one-on with my coach many years ago in New Orleans, and I thought, like, I've been training with this guy for like a couple months and I should have my one arm. And it was like the most frustrating practice, and I ended up stopping, and like I'm like, that's it for the day. This is really frustrating, and like emotionally it's like more than I want to deal with today. um and I think it's a constant process, but getting rid of that should and just being where you are
Mm-hmm.
is super important. And I know, I'm sure everybody's heard this over and over and over, and maybe it's super obvious. um but it is something that like I tell myself, like when I go for practice, I'm just going to do my best. I'm going to enjoy. I'm going to let it be an exploration. Like this morning I had my handstand practice and hadn't been on my hands for a few days. My shoulders were not opening the way that I want them to, and I thought, well, I can get like frustrated about this and be like, well, I wanted to post something but it's not going to happen. Or I could just go to the wall, do my shoulder openers, breathe, not think about that so much, and like get back to it. And so that was my practice. I did 3 sets of like line work on the wall. That felt really good. Videoed it to make sure I was doing what I wanted to do. And like in that process of doing the thing and then like looking at the video, I'm like, okay, that's moving in the direction that I want it to move. Like
Mm-hmm.
I like being in that process of like doing the thing, getting feedback, tweaking over and over and over. And that kind of gets me out of my head of like, I should be better.
Mm,
That's such a crappy place to stay. It's not
yeah,
fun. And
it
like,
really isn't.
and then getting back to the why, like if you can stay connected to that, like I want this to be enjoyable. You know, I want to do cool stuff, and I want to enjoy the process of like growing. And that's really how we treat ourselves.
Yeah.
That was the last little piece of training that I wanted to share that was kind of reverberating in my head.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, that was pretty much like the answer that I was gonna look for in whatever question I was gonna ask that I couldn't remember the question. Um, it's kind of like the like motto of, you know, the one of the OG mottos of acro is like, if you're having fun, you're doing it right.
Yeah.
Quoting Jason Emer.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I love that. I love uh, being really connected to why you're doing the practice, and also not making it like a torture experience for yourself. And
Yeah.
I think a big distinction for me around training is, rather than training being like a punishment for like what you've eaten,
Oh, yeah.
rather, you know, that's like some where some people come from. um or, you know, whatever. Maybe you're like, uh you know, using training as kind of like a cathartic experience of just like, you know,
Yeah.
uh, feeling things. But I like to come from a place of celebration and like enjoying what your body is capable of, and you have been really inspiring in that mindset shift for me.
Thank you. You've been inspiring for me too. I love
Oh,
seeing your,
good.
I love the tags too. It makes me want to go practice.
Yeah, I know. Every time I'm working on my stalder, I'm like, Erin Lind,
Oh,
here I am. We're in this together. Showing up. It's been like a long goal, because I can do a straddle press and a pike press, but the stalder has eluded me for a very long time.
we need to have a Stalder Zoom hang. I need to keep working on one too.
Yes.
The head is going well, the up is, whew.
Yeah, I know. Even right now, even the negatives are feeling hard for me. Well, I mean, they are hard. But you know, I go through like fluctuations of like the negatives feeling like really strong and really good, and then some days they're just not really there. So, you know, and that's okay.
Yep. It's a moving target. Every day is a little different.
Yeah, totally. Um, but yeah, I wanted to also bring up the um, program that you have online, which is a little bit more acro focused. But there's still, I think, a lot of juicy nuggets in there.
Thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah.
Yeah, it feels nice to have something to offer online while I'm not teaching live events. Tears.
Yeah. No, same.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So it's called The Essentials of Hand to Hand. And it's a course for people that are into acro and want to learn hand to hand. And it's basically, it's a progression for like everything that you would want for hand to hand, like pre-standing. And it's all the work that I would, you know, run people through for standing acrobatics as well. You need to have, I'd say, like a 10-second foot to hand before you get started. And then everything else. And, you know, I would also encourage flyers to have a minute at the wall and probably 3 or 4 sets of 5 tuck ups. And if you can do that, you're in good shape to start training hand to hand. It's kind of like a compendium. Like there's a lot of information. There's only 4 videos, but I think there's like 25 demos within those that you'll have to like kind of scrub through and do over and over. And I think for me, like thinking back on my initial hand-to-hand process, it's probably about 6 months worth of training. It's only $50 right now, so come on. Yeah. I would say one of the things that would be really helpful getting into it, if you're a flyer especially, you know, bases I think would do well to train handstand too, but for the flyers, learning some handstand specific things like getting shoulder alignment in place and getting a good idea of how to tuck and straddle up would be good prerequisites. I'm working on a handstand for acrobats course that's most likely also going to go up on Skillwell, but I don't have like a timeline on that, hopefully in the next few weeks. But yeah, that would be kind of a precursor to the hand-to-hand course. So if you're into it, it's basically the course that I wish existed when I was starting hand-to-hand. And I think probably it would have saved me a good amount of time. So there's that. It's been cool seeing people pick it up. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
totally. Yeah, and it'll be a cool thing to revisit once the quarantine is lifted and once people can, like, you know, train more. So it's like it's a good investment even if it's not like a right now
Yeah.
skill for you, especially if you know, for people who are training alone or not with acro people.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. There's a couple of my like secrets in there, like things that are more individual to my teaching that it's nice to share.
Awesome. So where can they find that?
That's on goskillwell.com. I can stick a link in the Facebook thing when you post it.
Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Thank you again for mentioning that. It's really sweet.
Yeah, no problem. I mean, you're one of my absolute favorite teachers, and I, you know, I am, I see the best in people, but I also really, really love when I feel like I really resonate with, you know, what somebody is teaching and the energy that they're giving and the mindset and the, you know, the quality of, you know, a person's essence. And I want everybody to know who you are because
Oh,
you're so inspiring and amazing.
thank you. Oh, you're too kind.
Cool. So I feel complete with this. Is there anything else that you would want to like say or add or?
No, just thank you for asking. I feel really honored. And I was
Yeah.
actually like pretty nervous to do a live thing or a record thing. Like, oh, but I feel really safe, felt really comfortable with you. So thanks for
Oh,
making
yay.
me.
Um, well, there's a lot of love. Cool. Well, I'm going to stop the recording.